All right, so we're super happy to have Andrew Vick here today. You're a well-known, and I have to add, beloved photographer,
100%.
Minneapolis wedding photographer, and owner of the Living Room Studios, right?
Bingo.
I feel like I'm missing out something else too.
He is so
jack of all trades.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're just so omnipresent in so many ways in just doing the things you do that it feels like more, but it's like this is what you do, but you have such a large presence and such a beautiful like contribution to everything.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is we have a few brands out there. So our wedding brand is Vick Photography, and that's our wedding and engagement brand. Vick Studios is our family, babies, and corporate branding website and site within that. So that's our umbrella. And then we acquired Pop-Up Weddings, which is our micro wedding.
That's right.
Brand. My wife gets to run that. So we're really unique wedding photographer and wedding planner that find each other in the world. And it's a little different working with your spouse. I know we've had a few people on that have had great experiences working with their spouse.
Yeah.
I would say we've done okay.
There's a learning curve there.
It's really hard to sleep with a wedding planner and you end up learning way more about the details than you ever
ever wanted to know.
So there is a marriage camp that exists in Georgia. It did for, I think we attended 6 years, and it was started by wedding photographers that were in business together and trying to figure out a way to stay married, raise kids, and have faith and kind of put all those things together in the world and stay sane. And we signed up every time, and we were like, we need this. It's like group therapy, a little praise and worship in the evening. You put lawyers, doctors, teachers into that environment, it sounds awkward, but somehow in the creative world we can kind of get away with it. So
that's awesome.
It's called Connect.
That's super awesome.
It's still happening, or
it wrapped up a couple of years ago, but we have a heart to see who else might be interested in the Midwest to
do like a 2.0.
Do a little 2.0. You said why not leak some information out on this one? I don't mind. I don't think Janelle. Where's the camera? Right here. We're here.
You can pick one.
Look at this one.
Janelle, I love you. That's my wife.
Yes, I feel like one of the things that is one of many favorite things of mine about you is like your unabashed and articulate love for your wife, and that you share that so readily. And I feel like that's not always necessarily like, especially in the Midwest, like people can be like kind of quiet about those kind of things. And that's like, when you talk about her, it's like the enthusiasm is there so intensely, and it's just like, wow, God, I want somebody to love me like that. Okay, like that's just like the glow off that feels good, even being around it.
Oh, Jess, that's like that's some of our potion and why you can stay in this industry. I really believe, like, wholeheartedly, if you're not taking care of the home front. And the kids aren't fueling you, and their partnership isn't fueling you. Like, everything gets to be a drag because you're shooting out of scarcity and resentment versus like an abundance and overflow. And so that's one of our intentional special sauces. One of which we were encouraged early on in dating is to set a date night, because we are weekend warriors. We give up the very best of summers.
Yes, sir.
In the state of Minnesota, and so we said, all right, Tuesday nights, that's our night. And so you discipline workouts, you discipline like eating, all the other things. So why can't you discipline spending time? And if we're broke, you just lock eyes. The rule is you just have to stare at each other for at least 2 hours, and only half of it can actually be about like the schedule. She loves the schedule. Again, grateful to have the schedule.
Yes.
But if we're broke, we just lock eyes in the basement with a candle and just check in.
Sounds like you're having a seance, but I'm here.
I mean, there's sometimes you're on the opposite ends of the room and you're kind of doing it. But like, if there's ever a concert coming through, it's easy to kind of like grab a ticket and surprise each other. And we take turns kind of who leads the way on picking the night.
That's cool.
So that's
I love
kind of
that.
how we did it. And so we've done it for 16 years. We're coming up on 16. And you mentioned like this is number 16 of the
Sweet 16.
Sweet 16.
Yeah.
And so her idea was always to do a Sweet 16 like renewal of vow thing.
Okay.
And we got married in an old mansion up at the Glen Sheen, and they're not doing weddings anymore.
Didn't it?
And done.
I was like,
too many ghosts.
Oh,
just
what's the one that burned down?
It's not really. There's a wear and tear on the old mansion kind of thing. And so
Well, what's the building up there that just burned down recently?
Oh, that's a few
That's a
miles
different one?
north.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
Tofty area.
Yes,
It's the
yes.
Lutzen Lodge, I believe.
Yeah,
And
sorry.
fact check. I don't know if that's
something
actually,
like that.
It's close enough.
Some up there.
Yeah, Glen Sheen still stands.
Great.
And we booked it, and Janelle just said, hey, I can just picture coming down one aisle, and it's the Glen Sheen. And as we had booked it, we realized the staircase she's coming down was where they had found the dead body, and there's a whole mystery and beauty of the mansion. And there was a photographer in the family, and the son, I believe, was upstairs. They had a dark room, and so the connection to the space was always like, I always felt like if the walls of an old space could tell stories,
Right.
Yeah.
the stories that they would tell.
Oh, yeah.
And her dad used to play the piano for some of the events at the Glen Sheen, and he's passed, and I never got to meet him. So it felt fitting that all the pieces were kind of lining up for us to say this is obviously our place. And storytelling is what I love. I dedicated my life to it. You guys love helping. Throughout our years, man, we've had some adventures.
Yes, we have for sure. I feel like this is also a story that I was trying to think of stories from when we've worked together and stuff. And this is one of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me. When the machine shop opened, it was in July of 2016. And we had a couple events booked, and one of them was a party for some friends of yours that you were going to be there. And I can't remember if it was like a double anniversary party or something like that. I don't even know what it was for.
Totally.
Yeah.
Megan and Andrew Murphy had maybe done their wedding like early years. Yes.
Yeah. And it was on my birthday. And which is fine. I work on my birthday all the time. It never really fazed me or something.
You're an adult now.
Yeah. I mean, whatever. Shut up.
We give up all of our dates.
Yeah, exactly. All this stuff. And so everyone was like, oh, you're working your birthday. I was like, yeah, it's normal. I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. And I said something to you. And then like 20 minutes later, you showed up with a birthday cake. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that is so nice. I almost cried. It was so lovely and just so like surprising and thoughtful. So
Remember that.
Thank you for that.
I met you in 2018
Glow.
at Aria via Kate Naylor.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And everyone just talked so highly of you. So like my expectation was like through the roof, and you hit that. So you've always been awesome to work with, obviously.
Thanks, buddy.
And that's how the rest is history from there. That's how I got to know you a little bit, and those 2 minutes at a time talking and BSing, and then now we're sitting here today, which is really cool.
Well, we did commit to each other that we were going to do a beer date.
And
it turned into a hard alcohol date and microphones now.
I was going to say, I don't see any beer, but get the second drink.
No, I just, I have always appreciated you guys' never a need for accolades.
Yeah.
And you just work your tail off. I think the best compliment you guys could ever receive is like, wow, look how hard you worked, or look how hard, like that must have been so hard or so amazing. And you give the shirt off your back to make the events happen in the shadows, and a lot of people don't even realize all the behind the scenes but for me, showing up in space, I have to be a bit more front line as you're kind of like directing and
front and center.
It is. And you guys have always buoyed me, given me a ton of just trust and love, and it really brings out my very best. It was always like home whenever I'd come and hang out and be a part of things, and so this is an extension of our home today. So
Heck yeah.
So super honored to be here, and I'm just the right amount of nervous, scared, and that's like the best place to be for me.
You're making me nervous now.
I know. I was like, wait, what are we doing here? I don't remember.
No.
Can I tell you? I'm going to jump into the story for a second, and I know it's not my show, but I just
it is your show.
The show's yours, man.
So adrenaline is like I feed off of it. I'm kind of a little bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Okay.
It's taken me around the world and then some. And so one of the things that came out of COVID was a friend said, hey, instead of being bummed that you're not working on a Friday night, what if, when you come home from that wedding and they serve you a box lunch and you had requested just a hot meal or they give you the chicken strips, and you're served with the kids meal at the guest's table, and, you're like, that thing that you do? I was like, oh yeah, I go in the freezer and I just try to beat the meal that was served to all the guests. She goes, yes, I want you to record, and we'll start with recording and I'll just go live with it. And so on Facebook Live, we just started recording whatever I would come up with in my head when I came home from wedding an event. And so my wife and her friend Laura, love you, Laura. She was on my team for a long time too. Love you. And she said, let's call it Friday Night Bites, as a play off of like, it kind of sucks that you're not working, but also like you love to host and have everybody in your kitchen, in your space, and make something.
I was tuning into those.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, yeah,
I know
both of you guys. You gotta give a little more
this.
context about it.
Oh yeah. So we just started hitting record on it, and whatever its concept, cooking, more of an entertainment piece. My wife never shows up in the kitchen with me. She just thinks it's kind of annoying that I dirty every dish.
I know that.
I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble. I would say this to her.
Yeah,
and you
she
get
knows.
really annoyed at me when I do that.
Yeah.
And
there's
so,
a lot of people out there being like, "Oh, that is annoying."
It is so annoying. I'm like, look at all these amazing dishes we registered for. Let's like use them.
Use every single one. Yeah.
And so we start using them. I start cooking, and so she's like, well, what if I just start like looking at who's showing up and commenting? Well, she ended up becoming as much of a big deal at this little thing that we did.
Like
and
your
so
little
people,
moderator kind of?
Yeah, moderator, but like almost like making fun of me as I was like he's totally going to burn that. Oh, that's not going to taste great. Oh, wait till he
Too much
he just
salt.
picked that up the floor before it. And so we have a food truck window in our house. And so when friends would know it was going to go on, sometimes we get a knock on the window and people would like show up.
That's incredible.
And
That's
so
awesome.
we just had fun with it. One led to two, led to 32
Holy smokes.
of these things. And we
I
took
remember it, but I think I kind of blocked it out because there's a lot of things during that time frame that I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing.
Totally.
I have regressed all those memories.
Totally. But for me, it was
that's
just
fun.
like creativity and adrenaline. And it was like, it had the same piece of like getting nervous and excited for a wedding and just saying, hey, can we land the plane? And we always did. And so it was, some people would say, hey, stuff like that got me through COVID. So this is a little bit of unfamiliar, familiar, but like really fun to get to see humans.
Yeah.
And thanks for making this available, and let's go.
Yeah, it was entertaining too to watch you do all those things.
And hanging out when we're not like in the midst of an event is so different, because we're usually, like we were talking earlier, like you're having these short little conversations, or once things get rolling and you're kind of hanging around like the hurry up and wait and you're just waiting for something, but you're always half focused, right? And to like be able to sit down and like give someone your full attention is rare. On event days for sure. And we never get to go super deep on those kind of days. Or if you do, it's like a random one-off because somebody's having a bad day or something. And so it's fun
or
to
you need to ride the elevator up to the 4th floor at Aria, and I gotta get the keys. I gotta get the keys real quick.
Or we find you in the freezer, and we're like, "What are you doing in
What
here?"
is going on? Not again. Dang it.
In
Don't
the
tell all of my secrets.
right in the screamatorium, as Kelly referred to it.
True that. Yeah.
I just can't believe this. It's like good therapy for you guys. You guys maintain friendship out of all the things that you guys have gotten to kind of see and do, and say, hey, we still want to sit down at a table and relive and rehash some of the stuff
our
that we get
times
to
together kind of didn't overlap really.
We didn't.
Like,
We didn't overlap at Aria at all.
I would cater in the building.
Yes.
And
we overlapped in
didn't-
that sense. He was with D'Amico while I was at Aria, and then when I left Aria, then he was there, but we have worked together a lot more since COVID.
Yeah.
We all just worked a big event. I can't believe these two are not sick of me, because I got them roped into a big event over Labor Day weekend, and it was a very long weekend. And I don't know, I was there for like 48 hours over 3 days. You guys were there probably the same amount, I would say. But yeah, it's even with seeing each other like in those settings, also because I think we do different things.
Well, we only talk at this table.
Yeah, it's
pretty
true.
much.
It's
like,
true. Yeah.
Like,
or in passing, I'm like, go get that thing. Go
or
do that
we'll
thing.
shoot a text here and
maybe
there.
you will run out of stuff to say, so you have to like save it up for this.
A little bit, but not even really. It's just, I don't know, like.
Is this your date night? Is this kind of like your date night?
Friend date.
Fun date night.
Yes,
It's
yes,
fun.
Exactly. Oh God, our platonic date night. Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm in a throuple or whatever a quadruple would be with these three dudes.
It's you and the boys.
That's true.
I do appreciate you guys. Thanks for manning the cameras and the screens today. I have mad appreciation for everything that's going on around me right now. Normally I'm back there. So.
Yeah, yes.
Yep.
It is weird being, I feel like,
on the other side.
on the other side of things. Like, it is a little I don't have stage fright, and this is a little different because it's not like there's an audience necessarily, but there is the knowledge.
You said it's a massive national audience.
Oh yeah, thousands.
It's growing every day.
Okay.
Thousands.
Right.
There is an audience, but it's not directly here.
Okay.
Like when there's people in the room, like, yeah, I can get a little bit of stage fright then, but usually not too bad. But I'm also genuinely not like a person who likes to be front and center and like main stage kind of thing. And I feel like a lot of us kind of are like okay with it. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but like I don't know how you feel about that.
About being on camera and stuff?
Yeah, being on camera, being like the center of attention. I'm very uncomfortable. I turn into like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm like, I don't know what to do with my arms. So
I'm getting more used to it. But like when I was telling you about shooting videos, even when I was by myself shooting stuff, and then you like what I did, and I think that helped a lot, was watching yourself back.
Yeah.
And just being like, God damn it, I say all the time. So then you do it again, do another take, try it again, and just watch it. And then the scariest part is when you give the footage over to somebody else.
Yes.
And I know this dude's watching every second of the video, like
over
doing
and over
editing.
and over and over again.
And that, I think, there was a point where I was just like, you just kind of let go.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, it is what it is, and that's what I could do that day as a...
You bring the very best that you have to the table, and you have to leave and then go, I'm going to sleep well tonight because I gave it my all. And for any event.
Yeah.
At least you have editors. Like, the most terrifying thing, the Friday Night Bites was like just fun because it was off the rails.
Just live, yeah.
And it was at 10 o'clock at night, and we had a couple drinks, and we just enjoyed, like, we just laughed a lot together as a couple, and like that was really good for us. It was our own therapy, and other people were like, we just wanted to hear you guys laugh, and we just kind of missed that during COVID. I got to do a couple runs at Twin Cities Live. And
that's cool.
And one of the episodes they had me on was, our audience is named Tammy, and she is this age, I think like 35 to 56 years of age. She's at home, waiting for kids to get off the school bus at on a weekday.
Yeah,
and she's about to step into the holidays, and she wants to take a family photo and learn how to take a little bit better family photo. Is it the fireplace? Can you just help her out? Give her like the best advice that you have. One of the runs I did was right when we got engaged, and so they had some content of me proposing to Janelle and some stuff up the North Shore there, and we kind of fed into some tips and just how to take a little bit better photo of that. If you are wanting to know what those tips are, you can go to our website and blog, and you can watch it. I won't
Search
bore
Twin
you guys
Cities Live,
tonight on it. No, but no, I think teaching's always been a big part of like my background.
Weren't you raised by school teachers?
I was raised by school teachers. Yeah, man.
You gotta tell me a little bit about that.
Dude. Everything's an educational opportunity in the land of being raised as a Vick.
So not your parents, but just like the education system in itself.
No, my dad. My dad was my principal growing up in St. Peter. If we're gonna kind of go back there,
let's start there. Let's start there. Let's
okay, all right. It's good. That's a good transition. I like that.
We want to hear how this started, where this came from, the origin story.
Being raised in a small town, everybody kind of knew your business, and so. By the time,
we are all three from small towns.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, super rural Minnesota.
I'm really grateful for having small town background in it. I think it just makes you sit in like gratitude. In cool ways. And so we moved up to the big scary city. My dad got a job at the Edina schools, and my mom then got a job at the schools. And so I went from eventually he was a principal at a school in Edina, and then became assistant superintendent of the district. My mom was a third grade teacher in para for most of my life. And so LED, elementary education, was always their thing. Most recently, my dad got inducted into the Educator Hall of Fame at the University of Minnesota for some of his work.
Super cool.
Yeah.
So when we won that Star Award in that space, my first Star Award is, I always remember you first. But that was a special environment because my dad had also kind of won a super cool honor in that space. So I was a kid that didn't grow until like junior year of high school. I didn't play hockey.
Yeah. Oh, in Edina. Oh, that's.
Yeah. And I worked the golf clubs that
you got the hair for it.
Thank you.
Sorry, he's been working on that.
He was waiting.
Come on, it's a beautiful man.
Yeah, people call it the beach hair. I forgot to trim coming back from California, but I got to fall in love. My earliest photos were stringers of fish in the Boundary Waters. and the golf courses. And so originally went to school for golf course design and landscape design at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and it was all on track for that. And my parents came home from a conference in San Diego and dropped a brochure on the table and said, or, school starts in like a month, but you could see if you can get in at this small school where you could take college credit surfing. Hurley sent his kids there. Michael Jackson's niece and nephew were some of my classmates. They replaced a lot of bike racks with surfboard racks.
Like Hurley, the surf brand kind of thing?
Yeah, Hurley as in the surf brand.
Yeah. Okay.
Ping Karstens had all of his, family would flow through there. And so I said yes, obviously, to that. It was a choose my own adventure page in my book. And I do look back sometimes and go, man, what would it have been like had I
You'd be on
stayed
golf
on
course right now riding on a lawnmower.
But it dawned on me that it would have meant, and I might offend some people in the audience, but that massive national audience, that if I said yes to Madison, I would have been rooming with a buddy, but I would have been grinding up plant matter in the basement of a 100-year-old building with a bunch of farm kids from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Or beg my way into photo classes and take surfing, or I end up doing beach volleyball and tennis. Those are some of the things I kind of got into.
What was your major in this school?
I want to play you in tennis right now.
Oh my god!
Well, it doesn't mean that was good.
We could do a table tennis next door. No,
I'll kick your ass. I bet you would, man. Dorm champ, man. You're messing with the wrong guy.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah, table tennis not my thing, but I could.
There's a tennis place right around.
Yeah, right next to us, our neighbors.
Yeah. Well, the only class I failed in college was tennis.
Oh, okay.
Because I just never got up. It was at 8 a.m.
I wish I had a school that had those kind of classes.
Well, we had to take a PE. It was like a liberal arts, so like you had to do a couple PE credits. So I ended up coming up and taking like a yoga class or something and getting my credit with that. But
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. No, I ended up graduating with a business major, almost a comm and photo minor. Okay. Was close. But if you were to declare arts as a major, you lose your business scholarships. And so they kind of had me in a hard place. So I just kept begging my way into photo classes. And then they asked me to stay and do a exhibit and got to travel.
So that's how you got into it during school?
Yeah. The darkroom was like sacred. I loved it.
Oh, nice. That was some of my first ever photography too. What was enticing about that? What was the calling?
Earliest work was friends coming off the ocean. I'd never seen surfing before in real life, and some friends were getting into modeling agencies in LA and needing to have some headshots. The light was beautiful. I just loved like that smog of Southern California. You had beautiful sunsets every night. My dorm was literally 50 yards off the cliffs of the ocean.
Okay. What school is this?
Point Loma Nazarene University, and it's about 3,500 student body. It's like a St. Olaf on the beach.
On the beach, okay, yeah. Very different environment.
Very different environment.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's dope.
But they needed some work done, so I started taking their photos. Started developing my own film. Rolled my own film.
So it was like film in the beginning.
Yeah,
strictly film.
Yeah. I love having a film background.
That's
I actually know what dodging and burning and Photoshop actually came from and what it means. And
I think I know what it means.
Say, yeah.
It's like when you have to use like a piece of paper to block out the light in some area or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, I know what's up.
Yeah, look at you. That was a flex.
I
heard this show was about flexing. Is that true?
Yeah, okay, flexing.
Right.
Show off. Oh, yeah, well, literally sometimes.
I was blessed with a really cool art teacher.
That one killed over there. Sorry. In the peanut gallery, they thought that was funny.
Was that a giggle? Under that beard? There was a giggle in there, I'm pretty sure.
I had the blessing of an amazing art teacher. Shout out Tom Sputic. He's a potter.
Okay.
And photographer. Now he does a bunch of other stuff, but like a business, he helps businesses grow and different things and helps entrepreneurs and stuff like that. But he was the reason for me getting into arts and stuff. And he actually hit me up one time recently. He's like, I love that you're doing this podcast thing. So I hope he watches that and sees that because it's super cool. He, our class like voted him like one of the best teachers or whatever. And, but I used to spend all my time, any free time I had at school, like it was like playing basketball in the free time, but otherwise I was in the photography studio.
Look at us.
And I was throwing pottery and like actually getting paid. Some people, like a older woman, a friend's mom, commissioned me to make a few pieces.
Oh, nice.
So I was like really good at it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, if no one had showed me, I would have just never had done it. And now, like literally, that's my retirement plan. Like I want to be like an old man just throwing pots.
He's gonna do pottery
throwing
and bonsais.
pots, taking photos.
Dude, I didn't know we had that in common,
Pottery,
man. I did advanced ceramics in high school. It was one of my favorite classes. And I think there was a market that was untapped because a lot of friends were asking other people to make bongs and other things for them. And I think you could have had a business early on in that.
I never got into that.
You never got into it? I ended up not having enough customers or where to find, but people were making some odd shapes.
We had a couple of students like that. Yeah, we had a couple students like that. But I never even like really touched weed until I was like in college. So
I knew enough that is what you do with that in the pottery class. I'm making a vase. Like, and a vase is amazing.
Why does it have that thing coming out of it?
I don't understand.
Right. What does it need that for? What's this? Yeah.
No, it was one of my favorite classes too. So my parents will still have. I hope they never. I love you guys. But like a whole shrine of all Andrew's pottery. Oh yeah.
Cool.
I think as creatives, you're just discovering who you are meant to be in the world, and like that was a big part of it. And I learned early on how to shoot with people instead of at people. I kept watching people use the camera as like to direct a scene, and I always really believed in some cultures, it literally, when you take a photo, you're taking part of their life, you know? And so like to really honor that vessel and that vehicle for creative exploration for that, and to really start it with a conversation, because I believe taking photos of people, like people will say it's up there in their top 3 fears with public speaking, maybe, I don't know, maybe going to their lawyer, and probably getting their headshot or being photographed is probably right up there with
getting audited for their taxes or a colonoscopy. One of the two.
Colonoscopy. I said that. I'm going to add that one to the. Okay.
You know, even at event managing, just seeing all the wedding couples come in, and you could tell if there was a vibe or not, like between them and the photographer. Well, you always had that down.
I feel like we talked about this with someone else of just like what's the most important relation. It was with Whitney, like who's the most important relationships and the people that you have to vibe with. And she was like the planner, number 1, because you spend a long time with them, but number 2 is the photographer, because they're seeing you in these extremely intimate moments, and you have to try to be natural around them as much as you possibly can, and like comfortable. And then they also have to be able to direct all these people and gather them. And that is the part that I think people underestimate, how much work goes into it. I mean, I think everyone underestimates how much work goes into it for all of us, right? Yeah. But from a photographer, it's not just about like being able to take pretty pictures. You have to direct all these people and wrangle them all and move them and get them to do this and like, and also like look nice and look natural and
There's a ton of psychology that goes into it, and I don't think people really realize like all of the care. I think for us, start to finish, we counted up 17 lines of communication from start to finish with a couple to kind of get them to the day. And a long time ago, I realized I am in a service industry, and I'm not, the artist who's showing up and giving you like my very best in the way I'm going to do it. I'm like, let me learn more and more and more about you, because I'm a commission artist. You're paying for something you haven't seen yet and that you trust because you've seen all the other work. And so what you are wanting to have us document and create is going to be an expression and bringing up several notches, whatever vision you have, and adding our flair, our detail, and things for it. And so, I love my portfolio. Don't get me wrong. I've gotten to like add some cool, like insane stuff along the way. But as soon as I start shooting for portfolio, I take the couple's heart out of it. And for me, that's always just been a big part of it. Like I'll sit down in an interview like this before I even start headshots, and I'll start just clicking the camera like this on my lap so they can hear the sound of that camera.
So it's not jolting and they're not like flinching.
They just suddenly, and then I ask a question and I bring it up and we start just starting the conversation with it. And before you know it, that camera disappears, and now they're just saying, wow, I'm having a conversation with my friend Andrew as we're trying to get the most natural side of it for it. So early years was San Diego. I got a chance to come home, pay off some college debt, and I got an offer to work at a school as a teacher for a private school, and I turned it down to take a job at the Edina Chamber of Commerce. as a director of membership. You had mentioned that off camera.
Yeah.
So for 5 years, I built community, and that was like my baby is
Nice.
just how do I find ways to include people and that everyone's welcome at the table. For me, that was some of my favorite stuff. Meanwhile, I'm using every vacation day to fly to friends' weddings and photograph them in other states because my market was based in Southern California. So early years was a lot of travel, a lot of destination work within it. So, but you always remember your first.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. You got to talk a little bit more about
your first wedding.
Your first wedding.
First wedding.
How'd that go?
First wedding, again, is my introduction to weddings. And
how old were you?
I was probably second year, senior year. So like fifth year, senior, whatever.
You had to get those like underwater basket weaving credits in there. Yeah.
It starts it out. One of my jobs on campus, it was like one of my favorite things ever was I was a director of student activities. And so we ran up to 65 events a year on campus.
I did student activities
did
too.
You?
Yeah, I was the director of like the diversity committee, which is hilarious, of course, because I'm like not a very diverse person from a small town in Minnesota, but I have always been passionate and excited about that kind of stuff, and so it was super fun. That's where I started doing events. It was like my origin story.
Right.
Yeah.
I would have hired you in a heartbeat.
Thanks.
We had a committee, a whole deal. We grew a program for like 16 events to 65.
Cool.
And stressed everybody out probably with all the logistics, all the things that kind of went on with it. But I just had a desire to try to find an event for everybody where all felt welcome. And so early years was taking photos at some of these events that I was doing, and then it kind of merged into, ribbon cuttings at the chamber. First wedding was I got hired by the bride's family because the groom's family had hired a photographer, but the bride's family didn't trust the photographer that was hired by the
Okay.
And so I thought that's just kind of how weddings went. Like,
Oh no.
like there was a bride's hiring side and a groom's hiring side. And
We're all like, ooh, okay, there's something here.
But they didn't tell each other, like they didn't tell me that there was another photographer hired on his side, and he wasn't told that I was showing up.
So two of them.
Oh,
So
that's terrible.
It was a Quaker wedding.
Oh, okay.
And family, you could just tell family was not fully on board. Like they're trying to figure this out. We show up at this park, and a cop car pulls in. And the groom gets in the back of the cop car because they didn't have the right permit pulled for the park. And so they're pulling up all the records and things like that. I'm like, weddings are awesome. Cops show up. I mean, we got some drama between the photographers. Like, this is going to be so much fun. And so, I ended up photographing it. I was all on rolls of film, and I got to give it over to the bride's family, and they didn't develop the groom's family's photographer images and just went with mine and thanked me for
the groom's family has a whole different set of photos. And like,
I don't even have made it into production.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Amazing.
That relationship, I think, lasted a couple years. Yeah,
seems like there may have been some
and
Rockies.
I'd given them a whole book of all the family, like and so they gave me back a good portion of the book that had been pulled out of just anybody with the groom in it. And she goes, "But thank you so much for photographing so many photos of my daughter with me and her
that's
sister
lovely.
and that kind of stuff like that too." So
somebody just like.
Back then, like how many rolls of film would you go through?
I bet you we probably went through maybe 12 or 15 at my first wedding. I mean, it was just my first one. Yeah. But those were the days you just drop it off at the lab, and then it would go into production. You get it back. You sleeve the negatives. You scan everything on DVD as high res as you can possibly do back then. Dust and all, like, you did the best that you could. But then you have all these beautiful prints. You put them in a book, and you're able to give them over to the client. And so, I just remember those weekly trips in between my days off at the chamber to go pick up and sleeve, and I would just be sleeving. And the craziest year in that phase, it was on the cusp of like digital film combo. I tackled, I think while I was working full-time at the chamber, I did 46 weddings.
Whoa.
And did that. And then the next year was our biggest year, and we did 70 weddings. And I was like, I'm so glad I quit the day job to kind of get to do that. we don't touch that now today because there's just a lot of high-end care and touch and detail that go into a lot of what we do. But man, I lived it. It was just adrenaline. It was so much fun.
Do you miss the hard copy stuff? I know you still do some of that.
The print.
Yeah, I got film cameras. People can always ask me to bring it out. Throw some black and white rolls in for any weddings I do. I do love kind of pulling that out from time to time. The simplicity of it was beautiful. It was an authentic, pure moment in this day and age. And I think what we're seeing more and more, like if you get a Pinterest board from a bride and groom, more than likely 80% of the photos that they're pinning or tagging are a style shoot and not a real wedding, or there's just been a lot done in post for it. And so the number of events that actually would be an authentic wedding, or it's more concept than it is actual like the day for it. I was doing the math on it. I think we hit 1,200 weddings in my career that I've got to take lead at in my time doing it. 21 years in this industry.
That's awesome.
And I think we counted. I got the numbers here. I was just counting 12 countries in 24 different states. And so I think I'm. Maybe it's a career by now. Like
you might be grown up now.
Yeah,
maybe
a
little bit. Maybe not grown up, but you're an adult or you're in your career for sure.
Do you guys ever find like it's really hard when you take the thing you love the most, you'd probably do for free, and you just find you put a financial number on it and you rely on it to pay the bills?
Yeah.
And I think when you don't do that, people call them hobbies.
Yeah.
Hobbies. and I have a tendency to take any hobby that I've loved and someone has offered me to coach golf. So I start doing private lessons and we start doing and loving landscape design. I've gotten to landscape for a number of neighbors and friends and they keep offering me to do these things. Photography was one of those. There's like people starting to give you money because they saw something in you.
Right. And you are the kind of person who's willing to just try it and see what happens and do it and can do it. And like, it's hard not to want to sometimes monetize those kind of things because why not, even though some of it you do for free, but you can do it more if you monetize it.
If I could keep my lights on and have enough, I think the word enough we've been working a lot on in my marriage and in with the kids of just like how much, when do you get to have that piece of just saying, you know what, we're really like, we're not content, we're like not pushing towards the next, but like we have enough and we're full of gratitude and really present in space and moments. And so I'm really grateful for the community and the friendships that I've kind of forged in this Midwest market. I didn't think I'd be coming back here and being here, but bringing a little West Coast swag and life to how the camera. I'm a rare extrovert in the industry with the photography industry. There's a lot of gearheads and techie heads, but man, it's a really fun space, and it's that whole director of events kind of coming out in some of what we get to kind of do. So.
Yeah. I mean, you master that like directing the event sort of thing, and that's like not an easy thing to do.
Herding the cats
for sure. And maybe this is a little bit of like a left turn.
Drunken cats too.
By the end of the night, just drunken. Yeah, I don't know what, but but I do enjoy it still. I really like what you were saying about enough, right? Like what's enough, and also like coming from a place of abundance instead of scarcity. And I feel like that's a hard thing for a lot of people first starting out in the industry, because you want to say yes to everything because you want to build your portfolio, you want to make some money, you got to pay the bills. You're scared that there just won't be enough for you, or how do you make your mark and things? And like, I think that there becomes a transition point when people have to start thinking about like, what is enough and what's my niche and how do I charge what I'm worth and need in order to pay the bills and like live in this place of abundance of like not being scared of the next year. I feel like that's been hard in the last couple of years post-COVID because everything feels so unpredictable. Like, I don't know how that is feeling for you, or like where that mindset like goes for you.
Yeah. And I would even piggyback off what you said and just like finding gratitude and why you do, like knowing your why is really important. And it's always been a core piece of me, as if I don't know why we're doing something, even why you're planning a wedding, like is it so you're impressing people, or is it like, I think the best compliment someone can get leaving of someone's wedding would be, wow, that was so them. But in relationships in the industry, like people know when you're feeling like they're leveraging a power relationship to get something out of it, like we've all kind of like felt that. I don't know. There's just some generosity and gratitude pieces. Maybe I'll give my parents a shout out for raising and maybe a little bit of some of the faith background side of it. But like caring for people, loving people really well, loving your neighbors as you do yourself. Like there's just a lot of generosity, gratitude that's for me. I've learned sitting in COVID was like, wow, if we can just be present in moments and find gratitude. Every world religion is like looking for that or seeking that or wanting, like that feels like the taproot of everything. Yes. And to me, that was centering. That was like a really beautiful like acknowledgement, and then go, how do I get more of that or find this in my practices?
Yeah. That's awesome. Earlier you said 19 countries. How many countries?
I think 12 countries.
12 countries.
24 states.
Well, 12 countries.
Split the difference.
Doing love stories, but I've done some personal travel.
But I think I read about you that by the time you were 19, you had hit all 50 states.
I did. Yeah. I hit the lower 48. My parents were road trippers or school teachers, so we had the summers off, and we explored the whole lower 48 by the time I turned 19, and added Alaska, Hawaii, a wedding and another wedding. Yeah, so 2 weddings brought me to those 2. But we didn't really board planes. We just were like, put the pop-up camper on the back and let's go. Yeah. And I learned a lot of curiosity in the world. I learned how to like see people differently. My first wedding that I got hired for in a destination wedding asked me, I remember this, they asked me, do you want the all-inclusive? And I quite literally I thought they meant they were going to pay for my parking. And I was like, wait, this wristband gets me food?
Right.
And beverages all day long? You guys are crazy. The photos have to be in focus the next day. Like, what are you guys doing in this? Right. But like, I love my naivety in that. Like, it just wasn't something that I was ever raised around. And maybe there's a part of me that's always kind of felt a little chip on the shoulder, feeling like I don't know if I'm ever fully welcome at everybody's table equally. And so I've just really used that, and probably some of my own work I've done, but just saying maybe I've made a whole living out of welcoming all and trying to be as inclusive as possible and seeing everybody really well and documenting who's best in that.
Yeah, there was a time too where I was like, is he really that nice?
Yeah, people think it's BS.
Yeah.
Well, I've questioned it. I not to like put you on the spot or anything, but I've always just like, how hard do you work at that? It seems like you do work at that. Yeah. Everything you've set up until now is like, even with the relationship, it's intentional.
Right? It doesn't just like, you're just not like a font of constant sunshine.
You don't ever be like, fuck that guy. Or you don't seem like the type of guy to say that.
I feel like I've heard you say things close to that, but still laughing and smiling.
I always laugh and smile.
Yeah.
I always get in this giggle. Like, some people call my man giggle, my miggle, whatever you want. But like, something about the giggle just is disarming when you're getting your photo taken. No, I get to feel all the feels for it, and I just don't like dwell in it. On the Enneagram, pretty pure 7. It's enthusiast. Always, like, people think, like, I have a tendency, people think they need to be my mom. Like, I have a lot of people saying, the world isn't really that great, Andrew. Can I tell you, you're not taking this into account? Or all the skeptics kind of go,
a bunch of buzzkills.
Oh, yeah, they come around me all the time. Like, they're all like, oh, you didn't think through this? I said, no, I actually thought through all those. I'm just not putting energy into those negative, like, what ifs, because we're going to go after here. I do have a plan, B, C, D, E, F. But like, I found a place to like harness like this positive energy, and awesome. Why not weddings?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. It's a good thing to do while you're shooting weddings. Just be positive.
I told you I'd offer a little sap on this, and this is real. But the thing that gets me out of bed to sacrifice all this stuff and get out of the family is to really believe that something I see on that day and I document. When they flip through it in their album, it's going to stitch them together on the hardest of days that they have and make them believe that they can go one more day, one more week, one more month. And if I give my absolute best, I'm going to find that, and that moment is going to be theirs that they can have forever. So I shoot with that conviction.
It almost made me cry.
I got a little,
I'm a little like...
I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah, shut up.
No,
foggy
man.
in here.
People say 50% of these things
It's
don't
dust
work
in my
out to the
eye.
grave, right? So why can't we be part of that change? Why can't it be my lens to like really be fully aware, fully hearted, and fully present with people to kind of get that? And so that's my why. That's why I get up in the morning and get to go do what I do. Is I just know that hard days come, and I get to just focus in on that. And that is it's a training. I got really good humans. My tribe's really positive. I got people that ask me hard questions that surround me. Amazing, wife and my couples, like, they appreciate that. The people who don't,
they're not your people.
They're not your people.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. There's enough to go around for everyone, and you have to have a connection, especially with someone that it's that intimate and they're in your face and you're having to be that close. Yeah. I mean, and even like the example you gave of the first one where like the relationship changed, right? But there's still moments that you captured there that are so special to them. I mean, I am divorced, and there are still photos from my wedding that I treasure because it's people that are no longer here, or there's a photo that I have of me, my mom, and my grandma, and we look exactly the same, and we're all the same height and very short, and my grandma's passed away, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's like a lovely memory.
Totally. A story of Tilly and Howard come to mind. I won't probably divulge a lot of names, but they're like, they become like family to me. And Tilly is a spicy dentist, Filipino, like all the life and energy. And she's just, when she got married and found Howard, she was 69 and he was 76. Again, fact check. But she's like, looked at me and said, Andrew, we're going to go down to Cabo with 12 people, and we want to bring your buddy John Hole, and we want to bring you. And let's be honest, we're not going to get to 25 years, so we want to do this right and do this well.
So lovely.
And so we go out on this boat and pull up to a private resort. They open it up just for them to have this beautiful ceremony on the rooftop. We're getting there's a fire pit going, and everyone's kind of sharing a toast, and they ran out of people to toast. And I remember them looking into the dark bushes and saying, Andrew, you've seen some weddings. You haven't given us a toast yet. I was like, it was like you guys, like if I'm putting you guys on the spot, right? And he goes, what makes this wedding special for you?
Yeah.
And without missing a beat, I said, I think it's really rare when you pull 50 years of friendship alongside of you in this journey to support this. And here you guys think that you were coasting through down the mountaintop or down the valley and getting ready for the sunset. And then you find a new peak and a new climbing partner. And you said, hey, do you want to go? And you reach out your hand and grab his. And all these people are cheering you on and sending you up to even a better view and a better overlook and the best view you've ever had. I said, that's what this is for me. And I only wish that someday I could have that kind of team around me.
Well, that's really awesome. It is. I don't know that I've ever had a couple. I've had older couples, but I don't know if I've had any that were in that stage of their life. Like, and that is kind of an amazing thing to think about, of like finding that love and some new partnership in that time frame, and then being able to witness that is really cool. And
to believe in love again.
Yeah.
I don't know, like what's it like?
There's so many people that get so jaded.
Can I ask you questions? Because when you lose love, I just think it would be so hard to believe in happily ever after at the altar. I believe that life changes, like the impact two people can make in the world is so much greater than one. So I believe that something in life changes at that altar. And so that's my own, conviction for it. But for you, having loved and then lost.
Yes.
Do you mind if I ask?
No, I don't mind.
How do you believe in it again?
That's a good question. It's funny because I was divorced before I was working at Aria. And so people who didn't know me before then, like a lot of people don't know.
I'm pretty sure I found out on this podcast that you were married previously.
Yeah. I know
Are you single and currently looking?
I am single and open to mingle.
Okay,
yes.
great. All right.
Yeah.
Just for the audience, the massive national audience.
International audience.
International audience. Okay, let's go there.
Yes. No, so I've been divorced for a while, and it's funny because I actually
you said no topics off limits,
no,
right?
none.
So,
I'm not.
Okay.
This isn't. I'm just putting my thoughts together on it. But I don't talk about it. Like if I'm talking to couples or like going through like wedding stuff, like I try not to mention it because I don't want it to be like weird for them, like that I'm talking about a divorce thing. But I don't feel that way about it necessarily. Like we have our reasons that we got divorced and they were valid. And but so when I got divorced, after I got divorced, at one point I was like, what do I do with my wedding ring? And I had a really beautiful wedding ring. It was like custom designed. It was nice and shiny. It was big, whatever. And I didn't know what to do with it. And so I finally decided I like sell it, I don't know, on Facebook Marketplace. I have no idea where I don't even remember where I sold it. And this couple, the groom came to buy it from me, and I was selling it fairly cheap because it's weird, right? It's kind of weird to buy, even though you would buy an estate ring, right? But then there's a different connotation. And he came and he was buying it from me, and they were like a young couple that didn't have a ton of money, and he was really excited to get a good deal on this ring. And then he kind of paused. He's like, you don't think this is weird, right? And I was like, honestly, that ring was given and received with nothing but an abundance of love and caring, and like there's nothing in that ring for me except good memories, you know, like there's nothing in there that is like hurtful. It was given with the intention of love and caring, and like seasons have changed and our lives have changed and we weren't meant to be together long term, but like I loved him in that moment, and I was in love, and we had a very happy marriage for a while, and things changed, and we just changed as people. And also we got married kind of young, which is not what I'd advise necessarily, but it is, you know, some people make it work for years and years and years. It just wasn't for us. And I don't look back on that season of my life and regret it at all. You know, I wouldn't be in this place where I am right now if it weren't for that. And I also wouldn't be in this place if I had just kept going in that. You know what I mean? I had to get to where I am right now in my life, I had to leave that behind. And I love my life, even when it's super, super hard, which has been over the last few years, like since COVID and starting my own company and stuff like that. It's been very, very hard, but I still love it every day. And I'm still grateful for all the steps that got me there, including marriage and divorce.
It's like that saying, right? It's better to have loved than to never have loved.
Yeah. Yeah,
or whatever. Yeah, I fucked it up. I know I screwed it up. Shut up.
No, it was so cute. It was get more of that, please. And you mentioned the positivity, but like COVID brought so many dark days, and I realized like what so many other people experience, like a lot of life, and hopefully that didn't come across cocky. It was purely like there was some really dark days, like just a tough time getting off the couch.
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Because I realized like my outlet of goodness in the world is like being able to celebrate people
and
well,
care for people.
Totally.
And when we can't be around people or create experiences or like do things that are joyful, like what is there? Yeah. And that was, I had a really hard time during that time frame, and I was part of the
Events Coalition.
Yeah, the Minnesota Events Coalition. Maybe I said this already once before, but whatever. I was building the website, which I'm not qualified to do. I can build you a very mediocre Squarespace website. And I was filling out like a resources page. So I was like, let me just go and I'll find a bunch of resources, people of like different counties. And I split it by like state, county, cities, and then like our industry or whatever. So it's like finding like food banks, right? Or different resources that people could get. And then I was thinking, like I got into like suicide hotlines and things like that. And I was like, at that point, it was very early in things that was like, this doesn't feel like it has an end to it. And this is a scary thing, a scary thought. I started to go down this thing of like people who feel like they're losing their livelihood, people who feel like they have nothing like good going on in their lives. Like, where could this go? And I started to get really like panicky about it and was like, I need to put all these suicide hotlines on here and like, you know, make sure that people are taking care of themselves. And it was just that time frame was so dark for so many of us. And I do think I have like blocked a lot of it out. And then we start kind of talking about it and I'm like,
sorry, my bad.
No, it's good. It's good. But it also means so much more now. I think that there's a place where without COVID in the middle of it, would my career still be where it is right now, or would I have gotten really jaded right by now, you know, or am I just so grateful to be back in the mix of things that I can still do these things?
What do you guys think the good stuff that came out of COVID was? Like now that things are kind of bouncing back, is there anything like looking back that's like bounced back better, or is like the
200
outlook?
evening meetings at the studio hosting with a bottle of wine, and that's from start to finish in the wedding plan. 200 appointments that all asked to go to Zoom. And so one of the best things ever was it no longer was disrespectful to ask someone if you want to sit on your couch and have a conversation with it. Our doors are still open and welcome to have somebody in, but they're able to interview a few more people in the convenience of their home versus coming on in. But the number of people of hosting, someone's running late in traffic, but the efficiency of that, I think is one of the most game changers for us, because then we can travel the world and do it remotely. We just did a bunch of Zooms when we were in Norway for spring break, and I was like, this is awesome. And I could storytell a little bit.
The whole world
there.
knows how to use Zoom now.
Yeah, that is true. I'd had 2 of my meetings today were on Zoom and 2 were in person.
That's one of my contributions. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know if I have anything to add.
For me, I would say so I left Machine Shop in December of 2019 to start Bigger Picture Solutions. Yes. Great timing. Go ahead and leave your full-time salaried position right now.
Yeah, just do it. Go for it. It's really fun.
I just remember
you're very brave.
I mean,
by the way, that's one of my favorite things about you.
Oh, thank you.
I just think I think you're a very brave person.
That's so sweet. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, actually. Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Because I'm scared a lot of times too. So yeah.
It's great. Hey, I don't see it as BS. I really see it as you know what? Ears back. I'm gonna go confidently at it.
Yeah. I have a very low understanding of my own limitations sometimes, which is great, and sometimes which bites me in the ass, but sometimes it works out. And so I left to start this whole thing, and then obviously everything kind of imploded. And Castina and I
love you. and you. Cheers. Oh, cheers. Hi, we're dripping on everything.
That's
Is
okay.
that okay?
Cheers.
That's all right. I didn't realize there's so much tonic in that. Hey, it's in my home.
It's an end of summer drink.
No, there's no judgment. I actually madly approve.
They're good.
They're really good.
They're actually pretty good.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
When you spike them,
right. We add a little extra.
I should have done that, but anyways.
Sorry,
no, it's okay. It's okay. So then, Castina at the time lived with me. And I did an interview.
Who?
I know who? Who's that? Castina Morrison? Never heard of her. She lived with me at the time. And I gave an interview at one point. There was a man who was doing some interviews of people in different professions that were affected by COVID. And I didn't end up making the cut, probably because I started crying so hard that they couldn't understand me. But I'm going to say this straight to the camera right now, which is I could not have survived COVID if it wasn't for Castina. I would not have survived if I hadn't had someone in my home, not only that was a support to me, but understood where we were as an industry, where we were going through things. We were both going through our own shit, separately. We were all both not well, but it was not well together kind of thing. It was, it was super important. And when her weddings all started to cancel, we had always talked at times about partnering on this idea of being venue consultants and stuff. And so she was like, well, why don't we just start now? So we're like, okay, let's do this. It was the first time I've ever been forced to take time off in between jobs. I've always, when I left the University of Minnesota Campus Club to go to ARIA, I had a 2-week crossover between where I did both jobs, because the person that was replacing me was on maternity leave and ARIA needed me to start right away. So I did both for 2 weeks, which was insane. And then when I left ARIA, there was some crossover between when I started to do consulting just on the Machine Shop project, and there was no break really. So it was the first time I was ever forced to take time off and given the time to think about my values and think about what I really wanted a business to be, and not just from an operational standpoint, but from a value-driven standpoint, which is what I wanted it to be, and probably what we would have done if we hadn't had the time, but it wouldn't have been so thoughtful. And we wrote it all down. We came up with and your why that you were talking about earlier. We sometimes have to remind ourselves of this, of when we're going into a meeting, why do we want to do this? What does this feed? What does this mean to us? And what are the values that we want to project in this situation? And does this project fit that? And we've walked away from some things that could have been lucrative because it didn't fit our values. And if we hadn't had that time to really feel those and kind of incorporate them into ourselves, I don't know if I would have been in a scarcity mindset of I just need to make some money, I need some projects, this is good enough kind of thing. But because we had established those, I was okay, well, this doesn't fit that, so we don't need to do it, and something else, we're leaving room for something better to come along. And also the sense of having been in such a scarcity place, but still survived it, that like we could do that again, right? If things are tight, we can still get through it.
Yep.
So,
is there a line for you between the bravery we talked about, confidence, and pride?
No, go ahead.
There's, for me, there's a blurry line in that stuff. But maybe let's pick two. Let's pick pride, and maybe it's the swagger and the confidence or whatever like that. Is it the same thing, or is it different for you? Because there's a lot of pull up your bootstraps and go, and I see that swagger in you.
Yeah.
And I want to go more at the fine lines in that and what
we're
gets
gonna
you
do
going.
the one where he interviews us for the whole time. This is so funny.
You come back and sit and
no, I love it.
We talked about I'm really curious about you guys too, and so
I love it.
I won't deviate too far. But I'm just really
that's a great question.
The bravery and fierceness is always a mantra that you lead with, and as you get into the why, like, where does that confidence, swagger, pride, how does it all play into why you choose to get after it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a really interesting question. I feel like I do have confidence in a lot of things, and then like in other things, none at all. Like it's like, and it sometimes changes, like it depends on the day of the week, right? But I always want to feel proud of the things I do, always. That is probably the thing that I struggle with the most at the end of an event. If it doesn't go well, like not feeling proud of something is the hardest feeling for me.
Pride being, I don't need the spotlight moment, but I just need to be proud is more inner.
Yes, like an internal pride, like an internal pride of a job well done, right?
Yeah,
not
a well.
Yep. And I did my best, and I checked all the boxes, and I got all the things, and everything went flawlessly, which I know is never possible. But it's really easy for me to ruminate on the things that didn't go well, no matter how many things went well, for a little while. I usually feel that way for a few days, maybe hours or days after an event, and then at some point it starts to switch to where like I'm just like, you know what, all these things were really good, and all of this was great, and I can kind of bring that internal pride back to it. The confidence thing, I think, I don't know where that comes from, except just that like I have a complete lack of knowledge of like my limitations to a certain extent. I'm just always like, I don't know, I can figure that out.
Write that down. It's beautiful, the vulnerability in there of just being like, until I fall.
Yeah, and I've gotten myself into situations many times where I'm like, I'm in over my head. But what I will say, and this is like just this last weekend, when I have been in scenarios where I'm like, oh, I'm in over my head, the relationships and the friendships and the community that I have built within the industry is what saves me every time. It is my safety net every single time. Because when I don't know something, or I don't,
who knows.
I know who knows. And I know that I have a relationship with them where they will help me in this scenario, even if it's like a favor sometimes. Even if it's like, I just need your advice on this thing because I don't want to make a mistake. Can you just tell me what you would think about XYZ? Because I hope that they know that I would do the same for them, right? And I think I have done that for some people over the years. And
absolutely,
those relationships and those communities that we have, I mean, I'm so grateful to be part of an industry where we can be like familial with each other in this way and have these relationships. And it's not like, everything's a handshake. Everything's very like
surface level,
like to be able to like have real conversations. And I think because we're a lot of times in witness of like emotional moments and like, changing relationships, and everything we do is about relationships in a lot of ways, that how could our relationships not be an offset of that, like totally. A part of it.
I mean, the best compliment I can ever get from anything that I touch is just, well, you cared more than anybody.
Yeah.
And if my intentionality and the caring, like if something didn't hit, they're going to give me grace because the effort was there for it.
The grace is the thing. Like that is honestly the thing that I think keeps a lot of us going in this industry and like makes it possible to be in this industry, like because I've built the relationship that I know that I can give you grace when you need it and you'll give it to me when I need it. It's like the most beautiful thing in the world.
I got to invite my mom. This past year was my mother-in-law to the Minnesota. So my mom and dad came to Minnesota Bride Awards when it was Bavaria Downs, and fun full circle moment. My Janelle's mom, so my mother-in-law, she'd been wanting and been asking to come for years, and she finally was like, I'm gonna come. But I brought black. I said, well, you can't bring black to this like peacock kind of an event.
Yeah, the theme was like very colorful
and all this stuff. But she just felt like she was in Hollywood. She is from Menominee, Wisconsin. Love you, Janine. And
that's awesome.
And she came off that bus, we had a limo bus, and just was swagger. But she just was like, everyone was so nice and so much fun and such good energy. And there's layers of people. Yeah. Like I got, but I was like, as soon as I picked a couple people, and if you were there, you know who you were. But I was like, let's cut through this. Who do you do life with? Where do you hang? Where's your fuel from? Like, if you're going to get in life with Andrew, like, I'd kind of like to to go there sometimes.
Yeah. We're going to get in there.
You're going to get in there. And you can just tell I've never been asked that in a function like this. I'm like, come on, dude. But in it, like, it's just always been so appreciative of the community, the showmanship, but like in a beautiful way, because we get to celebrate each other who are all behind the scenes people usually. And so there's this wonderful awkwardness of the arts and a beautifulness of like, but I'm meant to be in the shadows, but this is kind of gosh, the hardest people at those events for me to recognize are florists, because everyone's coming out in their like schleppy black stuff, sweating, dropping everything off.
Hair pulled back, baseball cap on.
Hey, Andrew, dropping it off. And then they show up like Cinderella at that event. And I'm like,
whoa.
It's out of context.
In a way, from like what makeup artists. I mean, I'm in there but I'm dressed like ready. I have to
you have to look
show up on the day,
and
so like it's similar, and like, but the transformation of venue facility, like a lot of these people that are like watching every move, but like. Like Kelly, like it took me. I'm so sorry, Kelly. I love you too. It took me years to like get Kelly, but she was until we had a game, and one of my favorite games at Aria with. Has she told you this?
I don't think so.
You guys had a stash of napkins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That had people's
like the monograms, the like different
name and date and all this stuff. And so we played napkin roulette, and we would go to the vault of all the leftover napkins from people's weddings.
Yeah.
And I would quiz her, and I'd slap a napkin down, and I go,
Names.
Tanya and Steve's. Here's the clue: 929 Aria.
Yeah.
Go, and she'd be like. Going through the database, and if she didn't have it, she'd just like lay it out like as if she knew everything about it. And then I would call bullshit or you're on boy. And so it was like, so every time when we got done and instead of just sitting back and having a glass of wine to celebrate the night, she goes, all right, napkin roulette. I said, absolutely.
Fuck yeah, I love that. That's so good.
So I mean, you guys have both kind of put time in there, but
I love
the
that.
levity in that, but it also kind of bonded us and saying, hey, we really enjoy working together and kind of being a part of it too for it.
I feel like there's a moment too when you've been working like a really, really long day. It's like a Saturday, like it's been a long week already, and it's been a 12-hour day or something like that, where
most of them.
I was like that this weekend when we were working at like by hour 12, I was just fucking Fruit Loops. Like I was so crazy. And I just remember at one point, I don't even know what I was laughing at, but I started laughing so hard I was like crying.
Yes.
And I was like, I don't even remember the last time I laughed this hard, but it was definitely at the end of an event after a really long day when I just had no brain cells left anymore. And like everything is so funny, and it's the most intense like bonding that you can have, I swear.
Yeah.
All of us like Saturday soldiers.
Oh, it is. And that's when, like, when you guys threw an invite this way, I was like, I get to talk about why this season matters, or how's your season going? Or, hey, how's it? Like, you're not going to look at someone and go, oh, we're really down this year, or, man, it'd be great. I really don't like my couples. Like, like the answer is always like, we're doing either fine or great, or
we're hanging
busy.
in there. Yeah.
Oh, we're slammed. Like, we were fortunate to have a sold-out calendar last year, which was like a huge like thank you for people like really trusting it.
Yeah.
But like in my line of work, I really believe you're only as great as your last
work. One. Yeah.
And for me, it's always a fun challenge for it. But this exercise of coming into you guys today, I got to go a little bit of a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
And there's rarely a time you get to kind of like talk candidly about like some whether it be the hiccups or some of the stories within it. You know, I don't know. Do you
I want to talk about a little bit.
I know.
Of the hiccups
We got
because,
a little time for some stories.
Well, as a photographer, obviously, you have to back up data and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Has there ever been a time where you've lost an entire weddings?
Let's talk about the PTSD. Like
1,200 weddings. I've never been sick. I've made it to every single one of them.
That's incredible.
Never had to phone a friend. I haven't had issues with
No
our
loss
backup.
Nice.
Oh no!
Nice.
I mean, that's how you stay. That's how you stay in this business.
Yeah.
And then you have safety nets and pieces.
Yeah.
Like even when we brought a baby in the world, we didn't tell anyone our due date, because our commitment was, Andrew, you're going to go shoot that wedding and then get over to the hospital as quickly as possible. So I give somebody else a due date. And when you're bringing a kid into the world in your like 30s, you just can't always time. Like
Right.
It'd be great to be like, oh, winter baby, it'd be great. We have a little bit more space in there. But I mean, we're busy in the winter too. So it's kind of like we brought in a June birthday and a September birthday.
Oh, just peak season.
Just great.
Right.
But we talked, we're like, you love Mondays.
Yeah.
You love Mondays to each of our boys.
Uh-huh.
And sure enough, labored on Sunday, birth on Monday.
I love
and then we
that.
had all week to kind of recover from that. No, man, like I've got to see some stuff. We've some highlights. I threw a few notes together.
Love it.
Can I riff for a few
Yeah,
minutes on
do
this?
it. Yes, I would love that.
Once upon a time, I had a bride that brought in not one, but two, not three, but four. Nope, just kidding. 7 wedding dresses.
Stop. For what? I mean, when did she change them?
And we got to talk her into choosing 3. And it
Ceremony, reception, after party?
That's serious. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it was like, and we're like, and you want to get back in another one a 4th time? No, we actually just don't have. So 7 is the record. 7 wedding dresses. And I think she returned the ones that she didn't wear or use.
You would just spend your whole time changing clothes. Like,
yeah, why would we do that? Right.
Yeah, no. That's amazing.
So like one for cocktail hour, one for dinner, and then one for dance, or what are we talking here?
Ceremony, cocktail hour, or no, ceremony,
I
dinner,
forgot ceremony. Yeah.
after party. After party.
I have a friend, Lindsay Piram, who's an amazing wedding planner.
Yeah.
Lindsay would be. I
Was
just
it
got to do a wedding with Lindsay, and she led the day by the napkins that showed up at every part of the day. So there was a getting ready, a ceremony napkin, then there was a reception cocktail napkin, and then there was a second line that showed up with instruments playing and everything.
And they had
different napkins
gotta
for
have the
that.
So we're talking
and then your
cloth,
Mamma Mia
linen
pergola.
napkins.
Yeah. No, like printed napkins.
Okay, printed.
But the she goes, no, we have a napkin for every stage.
For every
of the day.
stage.
I was like,
incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But the 7 dresses kind of remind me a little bit
Yeah,
of like
that's still cool.
And we're not like it's not an Indian wedding, or the South Asian wedding. Like it's it's amazing.
She said 7 white dresses. Like
7.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating to me. I once upon a time got to do a wedding in Germany. The bride worked for Northwest at the time, now Delta, and brought me over. And the rehearsal dinner band in a cornfield doubled as the Father's Day band earlier in the day, became their wedding rehearsal band, and then became the polka band for the church service, and then the dance band for the evening that day. 24-hour bugle to bugle wedding. And
Wow.
I learned things like you mix Hefeweizen with cola, and it's actually good.
Cool. I wish we had some here.
Is that a beer? Yeah.
Yeah.
When you bring that, you got to bring the stuff.
Yeah,
to,
I know.
to make one. That's
Bring it
great.
up for the glass.
That'll be our next time together. Yeah.
I got to do a wedding in Peru, and the bride was from New York and flew me down and said, before our wedding, you have to see the Amazon. I said, I do? So she got me booked on a small plane to the remote village of Iquitos in the middle of the Amazon, sent me down
bold. Yeah.
with a pastor friend of hers that knew no English, and we sat in a boat staring at each other like this for 3 days down the Amazon. And we used buckets of water to bathe as we went through, and found enough pantomimes to kind of like carry conversation over. And I go, you're an idiot. I'm not coming. You're not getting me back alive for this wedding that's going to be in like 5 days.
Yeah.
But you insisted on it. And so
you survived, clearly.
I survived.
Yeah, made it back in time.
Yeah, Janelle ended up coming down, and we ended up doing Machu Picchu and some other cool stuff. But I'm like, you would never guess what I just did, right?
Right.
You been?
I've not been, but I watch a lot of podcasts about it because I'm a nerd. But
I
that's
love
cool.
your
That's
nerdy
cool.
side.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Yeah.
he's
Don't
got.
even get
Is
me
it
into
deep?
it.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
we'll talk about off camera because we can't have any more conversations
Okay,
about
all right,
trees.
sorry.
They've silenced me.
Yeah, we've censored him.
I've
We're like,
been
no more
quieted,
trees.
When
you were talking about COVID, I was
God.
like, not gonna say it. Not gonna say it. Not gonna say it.
We are censoring
I'll go
him.
punchless on a couple of these. I got to do a Arizona gun show. Like the bride punked the groom, didn't tell the guests or the groom that she was going to be. We were in Arizona at a dude ranch, and she had actors in the bushes come out and stop the wedding right before she came down the aisle.
Okay.
And came down the aisle, and he has a twin brother, and slapped the brother on the groom and said, "You did this to me," and she's pregnant. And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh." And she goes, "Oh wait, no, twins, it was you." And then takes and smacks the twin brother, and people are like, "What is going on?"
Right.
And then they fire guns and then go off in the distance and realize, okay, you're basically getting punked for that.
Yeah.
And so
You knew about it ahead of time, or did you just
they
were you
tipped
witness?
me off.
Okay,
I
they
was the
tipped
only
you.
one who knew about it, but I don't,
'Cause they wanted you to
Brian and
get
I only-
photos,
yeah,
or-
they wanted just to like get the moment of it, which was amazing.
Just Andrew
Oh my
shooting
gosh,
at everyone.
I was,
Like, oh my god!
sweating. I was
See
sweating.
you jumping in the bush, still shooting.
If you guys are like Minnesota sports fans, I've gotten to share a cigar with Gardy, Ron Gardenhire, after his son's wedding. Got to do Leslie Frazier justice with his son's wedding once upon a coach of the Vikes. Got to be friends with the Morneaus and got to join them in Maui for vow renewal over there.
Cool.
And they're super cool. I got to be part of Joe, and Joe's been a big deal in this, Joe Mauer, and got to do the wedding photography and doing 650 people of your closest guests at the depot with paparazzi. You know, that's a real deal.
Yeah.
Steph Curry was a co-best man at a wedding, and I got to orchestrate a slam dunk competition on an outdoor basketball court. And dressed him in Indiana Hoosier style short shorts and said, "All right, before you get out of that limo, here's your outfit change." And it was a team from Davidson, so we had Davidson colors all lined up, and we got to do a little bit of recreating some of that stuff. So yeah, man, I'll just say gratitude is maybe a bit of a theme today, but I just like look back and the people who've trusted me with stories and why you live to pick that camera up and why you look forward to the next year ahead. I'm every year I go, wow, we get to do this again.
Yeah.
This is awesome, and I want it to be my best.
Yep.
And my team's amazing. Love them dearly. I ask any band that comes through. Once upon a time I had a little band background of booking and promoting bands, and I asked the bands, why do you do the band thing? And they said, honestly, it's not the forest. I get to hang out with my trees, which are my band members. And so I think there's a lot of things that you guys get to do on a day-to-day basis in your line of work where like you get to do it in community. We get to do it. I've had people with me, 17 years, 16 years, 13 years. Like, it's a really cool rarity to have a job that you don't bitch and moan that much about, that you still want to go back to it because you really think you're making
and
a
even when
difference.
you do bitch and moan, you still want to go back to it. You're still ready to do it again, you know? I've been puked on so many times, and I'm still just like, yeah, okay, let's do this.
Yep.
Yeah, let's build another venue. Why not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Our world, editing, you had mentioned about the film stuff. I did want to touch briefly on it, and then you can, if we're at a good place, you can add anything else to it.
Yes.
But like, the editing world is vast. We've been asked to do everything under the stars from, a boyfriend jumped in, but mom needs to like get him removed to send out the holiday card. I had a bride that got nervous and gained in excess of like 70 pounds before the wedding. And we had to do some zhuzhing to get her to feel comfortable and confident in who she was and on that day. We've had a stepmom show up with a special gift from the dad that were on full display in the complete wrong color.
Okay.
And asked us to pull it up and tuck them in and make sure that the dress color matches the bridesmaids' dresses. And so we got to do that. So no, like we always think like our studio is a safe space. You can always ask.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, be vulnerable and ask. Yeah, that's really cool.
How do you feel about the editing side of it? Not necessarily for stuff like that, but like, I mean, do you have just any thoughts or feelings about like?
Yeah. Number one, I'm really passionate about like color scheme. If you're throwing an edit on something, the edit's going to date an image before anything. And wedding planners can't stand when you augment the spectrum and add a bronze filter or a desat filter because they spent so much time scoping and laying out the mood boards and everything else that go into it. Mm-hmm. So why would you take that beautiful Merlot color and turn it like magenta or hue it any which way? So we're purists in like bright color, punchy color, saturated color. If you have an edit and a style you want, we can match it. We have hundreds that we've custom matched. So that's number one. Number two, editing team will thank me for this. But we have a part of our team, fun fact, we're kind of like, I mentioned the whole global impact stuff. We've had some work and projects putting girls in school in Guatemala, where one girl's dreams come true on this side of the globe, another girl's dreams can begin in Guatemala. And I've carried that through into some of our relationships. We employ a couple people in the Philippines and change their lives. They're supporting multiple family members, and they're uber creative, uber passionate. But we can get images started organizing overnight. So when we wake up, we get a head start and can get those sneak peeks or expedite stuff out to people sooner. In general, if something's permanent on someone's body, we leave it unless we get asked that, please, can you remove that? Sure. Because who am I to say that arm needs to be like tucked in or this zhuzh needs to be, because if we do it on one image, we have to apply it to
on
everything.
All. Right. And it also like sort of is an implication, I think, that there's something wrong with someone's natural body, which isn't always something people want to. Like, it's one thing if it's someone who asks you to do it, like that's fair. But if there's like really heavy Photoshop applied where it's like, okay, well, I've worked hard to be very confident in my body and the way that I look. And so for someone to like make edits without me asking, I would be offended by it.
Totally.
Yeah.
If it's temporary, we'll touch it.
Yeah.
And if it's asked or requested, or in the album layout design, people can go steps further and tell us how far they'd like to go. We had one mom say, can you get rid of some of my, like, give me a good night's sleep and trip to the dentist and clear eyes? You know, it's sure, sounds good. Oh, and can you those like crow's feet here? Sure. The bride came back and said, you look like my sister. You are my mom. She goes, I got vetoed. Can you add the crow's feet?
Give me my crow's feet back.
So we got asked to add crow's feet into a photo officially for it. So
I love
is that what you were asking?
Yeah. No, and just like what are your thoughts about like other people's photography? Like if you look at, you talked about like model stuff, like working with people, model agencies and stuff like that. You know, like the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and then
people don't realize there's almost a day to 2 full days of production to get that one image to look the way it needs to be for a lot of these cover shoots for magazines. Yeah, like there's so much you can do. There is so much. So where's the line? And so
you might as well be AI at that point, right?
Oh yeah. You want to do a deep dive? You can go before and afters and just show me what the original looked like and show me what the end up piece, end up looking like. So it is when you mentioned, did you miss the days of film? I actually did, because for me, it felt super authentic.
Yes.
And we've tried to be really careful on the authenticity and the storytelling. It's on me as a creative to make sure body positioning and that you feel your absolute best in this. I've had a number of, just even yesterday I had a meeting and she's like, Andrew, I am in my 50s and you made me look and feel like I'm in my 30s.
Nice.
I had another bride tell me this year, she goes, I've loved everybody else's wedding photos. I knew I would hate mine, and you made me love my wedding photos and myself. Tears coming down her cheek. I'm crying. Like there is beauty in seeing people and understanding how you're seen and feel in moments. And then there's capture. And if I make someone feel seen and present and special in that space, they'll remember how they felt that as they kind of got that photo back.
Yeah.
And so the process is really important to me.
There's definitely like there's a barrier in there of like, if you even if you don't love like the way your crow's feet look or your double chin looks or whatever it is in that moment, but you've captured like the joy in that moment, hopefully people can look beyond it and like really like feel that moment and not look at those sort of things. It's not everybody who can look past those things, but I think that you're very talented and can do that, can help them suspend that.
Joy over, it usually thwarts anything else. It goes, I have a theory in people's gallery release. It's always like to see yourself on camera is always one of the things. And I say the first time through your gallery, you're looking at yourself. Yeah. Second time through, you're still looking at yourself. Third time through, you're still looking at yourself, but you start gauging the energy and other people in the space. By the time you go through it the fourth time and start favoriting, that's when I tell people to start selecting their absolute favorites. They start remembering how they felt in moments instead of everyone has their own demons in space. We like to create a space to like, let's share those. And then how do we make you feel even like more seen, more beautiful in space? And but there is a line in that. Do you guys feel that? Can I ask the creative crew back here? You guys chime in a lot. Tonight, less so, but I wanted to wake you up. I was wondering,
bring that mic with you.
How do you
bring the mic? Just bring it with you a little bit if you're gonna. Yeah.
I was wondering.
There you go. Yeah.
What's your experience with edit selection and some of the insecurities that people kind of get to go through as you're putting something like this together, or other things that you get to work on?
For me, it's kind of two different things. So like for podcasts versus like candids. So what we do with Event Life TV, we tend to capture more candid stuff. We try to just get people in their moments, experiencing whatever they're experiencing, conventions, parties. We don't do weddings, but we get similar vibes once in a while. But you're asking when I'm editing, like what's different about it?
Just how do you make decision on like, hey, you had crazy requests or other space where we put that in there and we had to remove it because we thought it was a great moment, but someone got really
okay, I get you.
You're in the power play. You get to like choose what the edit and the memory is in this or anything else, right?
So a lot of the time I actually like vibe check them during the moment. Like, so, because I'm watching the whole thing, I'm seeing the whole thing, but I also can see how they react to not only the camera, but the idea of being on camera or what they said, stuff like that. And so I kind of already like have a good idea of like, hey, that person does not want to be on camera. And like a prime example was this weekend. I had a couple moments where like one person was specifically didn't want to be on camera. And I was just like, you're not on camera. This is what I'm looking for. Don't worry, you won't be in the shot. Another person I saw like multiple times eye the camera, and after like the last time, I kind of like when I was done for the night, and I happened to be like standing next to him, and I was just like, hey, I noticed that you aren't feeling so comfortable and everything. He's like, yeah, usually I'm okay with it, but like over time it kind of gets to be much. And I was like, yeah, I totally understand. And so like that's something where it's just like I acknowledge your uncomfortability because it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I want you to stay here and experience everything and not have to worry about the camera. So I want to acknowledge or let you know that I do see you and I respect you and I respect your feelings about it. And when I'm in the editing room, I already have an idea of what I don't want to put on, because if the audience is seeing someone who's uncomfortable, they're going to feel uncomfortable. And then it's just, I'm going to have to fix it later. And I don't really want to fix it later. But yeah, I kind of do it in the moment during that time.
I know you have a headset on, but anything to contribute? Are you good?
For me, it's a little bit different because as an audio engineer, a lot of my editing is after the fact. So I don't have a lot of liberties to take in the moment when those things are being recorded. So like when we're doing the podcast, yeah, I can make my adjustments on the board and I can flag someone down and be like, hey, bring the mic closer or bring it back or something. But after that, really my focus is just making sure everybody sounds as good as possible, because that's what people want to hear. you don't want to hear the mouth smacking noises and
our glasses clinking,
and everything.
Breathing into it,
making cocktails in the background.
We have the most overused word in the wedding industry. It's called perfect. And the beauty of this is you put just enough of the imperfections.
It still needs to feel
but
human.
But it still's clean. Like there's a difference between perfect and clean. And you do a beautiful job. And everybody, I have to acknowledge the crew behind you because
I love it.
That's my space.
They're great.
Like I way appreciate what they bring to the table.
These guys are amazing.
No, they're incredible.
They do a lot for what we're doing here.
Yeah. They managed to. I was sick for a couple of weeks when we were recording a few, and there was one day where I had like an absolute fucking coughing fit.
Yep.
And I was so embarrassed, and I was dreading seeing it come out because I was like, there's no way they could cut it out because it was like in the middle of a conversation and the person didn't stop talking, and I was like, fuck me.
And the episode came out, and you literally probably scrolled right to that part, and you're like,
I couldn't figure out where it was. I literally couldn't.
No.
It wasn't in there.
It was bad. It was so terrible. I was like, I had like tears running down my face. It was one of those kind of coughs. It was so
hopped
bad.
Up along.
I like truly like had to run away. So and also like, I mean, I make jokes about it a lot, but I am a little self-conscious sometimes about like I have a very loud laugh, and sometimes I feel like I am in the background of this a lot of times laughing really loudly, and like I feel like they do a great job of like making me not feel self-conscious about it, or like it never stands out when I'm listening to the final product, which I think is nice. So yeah, they do magic. So
I have an audio plug-in specifically for your laugh.
Do you really?
I'm
Is
kidding.
this true?
I'm totally kidding.
I
But
want it to be so true.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I do have very specific settings just for your
I
track.
believe it. I believe it. Well, I know you had to change the settings when I was sick because my voice was like 2 octaves lower. So, yeah.
That's amazing.
In the world of laughter, it is one of my favorite parts of what I get to do. And when you're directing a day in a wedding, you're constantly like, it feels like stand-up sometimes. You're trying some things, trying to get it to move. But as soon as you respond to people, like as like you're part of them. I know that I have a few rules of thumb, and you know, maybe this is a good place to kind of like bring it all full circle within it. But number one is like, I know that I have 3 to 5 minutes to be able to gain the trust of any wedding party that I'm showing up in. I'm coming into sacred space, and they just see me with the camera, and most guys look at me like, want to raise a middle finger and be like, you know, really? You're going to tell us what to do today?
I want to drink. Yeah.
My rule of thumb with bridesmaids is I can never compliment a bridesmaid because I can never compliment them equally. Because if you bring out something that's beautiful or attention getting her hair or whatever, you can't share it across the board, but you can funnel it. Be like, how great to have such amazing friends that look so beautiful that came all this way to celebrate you. And how lucky are you to have such a tribe like that? So the funnel always seems to work. If you break that code, it's a fight all day. Yeah. And for dudes, you know, you kind of pick out who you can, like I ask in my questionnaire, like here's what's some inside jokes to make me feel part of the party. And they'll give me some content, and I'll get to like be like, from the bridesmaid and the groomsman side, like, wow, our state fair, like mascot, Tanya, I mean, how awesome is it that you came all the way here and skipped the state fair today to be part of it? How did you even know? I said, well, she gave me a lot of good stuff on
That's
you
a
guys.
really
that is
cool
good.
point,
That's a
dude.
good.
I like that.
Idea. Yeah.
I'm stealing that.
Dude, I love it. No, but it allows me to kind of feel like part of the gang a little bit, and then all the shoulders come down and get to be able to do that within it.
Bit.
But my laugh is always something I was like shunned on in high school, or like it was a little bit loud, and now it's my response to like helping people like disarm and engage, and kind of get to be part of it. And I get to do it with the camera. So, yeah, guys, this is so fun. Is there anything else that's burning a hole in your head?
I got one question,
No,
and
awesome.
it's well, and thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank
obviously.
you so much.
Yeah.
But just like kind of the legacy thing, but like the direction of where you're moving. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's the future look like for Andrew Vick? Like, what's that next goal?
The number one question when I tell people I'm a wedding photographer, the number one question I get asked is, you know, number one question is, can you tell if a couple's going to make it or not? It's my number one question that they ask. The number two question is when are you going to get out of weddings? Used to be the question.
Yeah.
Because people saw it as a passing through as you kind of get into some other phase of life within it.
Well, and it's important to say you don't only do weddings.
Right.
You do families, you do corporate stuff, you do everything.
And what's challenging is like I care deeply about each of our stool legs within it, but my family work makes me better on the wedding day, and my wedding day work makes me better in the corporate events side of things what I get to do. So I see them all like playing a really important role. I mean, we got acknowledged as Dinah Magazine's Family Photographer of the Year award, which is like super cool honor. So it's been a year of like some cool accolades of saying you're doing something right in the world. We just got selected to be incubated as a studio and basically a facelift with all of our new art and all the pieces. So this season we're rolling out brand new state-of-the-art artware, fine art paper, stainless steel. There's so many fun products that we'll be able to showcase finally, but we got selected as one of the studios to be incubated by White House Custom Color. We love them deeply, and they could pick anybody across the map, and we got selected. And so we just had our big gallery install last month, and all of our clients from wedding to family are now able to access that and be able to use that. So for us, that's been a long time coming. And if everything lines up the way it should for this fall, we'll be breaking ground on a state-of-the-art studio experience that we're building from scratch for client experience from start to finish. And
awesome.
That's a ability for us to be able to take our family and use our most important assets, which are the people I love the most, and say, this is my life. Here's a little peek behind the Wizard of Oz curtain, but we're going to give you a state-of-the-art experience from start to finish, and we care deeply about all the intentionality in the space.
Is there a name for the studio? Vick Studio?
Is it still
2.0?
Yeah.
We're just
We can talk about
No,
that
that's
next
okay.
time.
Tell me
When you
no.
come
Tell
back.
me no right now.
Yeah,
I love that.
We're saying working copy right now,
but
that is the rumor because we're one nod away from everything being able to move forward in that and being able to have a dream that I drew up 7 years ago before COVID, and then COVID got to shut it down.
We've talked about this before, right? Like this is the same project, or a version of it.
Well, now it's morphed.
Yeah, I figured, Cool.
And but like we were building this to be more present as humans in our family's life and everything else, and so it's really hard to see something in the world completely change some of the dreams. And so I pasted it up, and we just kept looking at it every day and saying that we need some levity to get through this. And if we can dream this, because it will be incredible for the people that we serve, but amazing for our family and our friends who want to come over and like see our heart for hospitality and all the things that we are creating, including our new galleries. It is it's beyond what I ever thought would be feasible. The name of our game is, if you own it, then you can be able to. I've paid somebody else a lot of rent money over the course of the year, and I love my landlord. But at some point, either we're going to keep both, or we're going to consolidate and say this is working and hitting great. But I live 5 blocks from our current studio on Excelsior Boulevard, so yeah,
awesome. We do have to wrap it up here.
We could go forever, though, so you'll have to come back.
Okay.
And I do think,
I think it was longer than an hour and a half.
I think you should come back with your wife next time, because that'd be super fun. I want to hear about her
you're
side
going to
of
get a
things.
lot of banter.
I know.
We're going to do that.
We'll have an extended cut.
Okay.
It'll be great.
Okay. Are we cutting all this to like 5 minutes and just do a highlight?
Just a sizzle reel.
Just
Sizzle reel. Yeah.
Sizzle reel on this, right? Just he's like, oh god.
We're gonna use AI and change everything you say.
Change it all.
Do you want to plug your studio, and just like how could people reach you? For the people that fall in love with you during this video, how do they reach you?
If you love your families or the business and you need a lifestyle rebranding on parts for your talk right here. VickStudios.com is that world. We are just next to Bunny's on Excelsior Boulevard in St. Louis Park. We live 5 blocks south of that in Edina, and that will be where the new studio will be 2.0. You got to have new dreams. And so they're not big enough unless they're laughable. And for us, for a long time, this dream was laughable. And now I'm like, I dare you. And that's kind of where I put my ears back and go hard. And so you can laugh at it. It's happening. Our wedding biz, love everybody that helps support us in everything that we get to do, and just gracious energy to help keep us afloat and excited to create again. And I'm honestly like, I have to stay humble at all times to say I get to tell another love story, and like to be able to do that for so many years is just an honor. And that's Vick Photography, and that's our I'd say that's our anchor business for many, many years. But romantic storytelling has been able to put other faces. So we love it. We love you guys. Thanks for having me.
We love you.
Thanks so much.
Love you guys. Sorry to put you on the spot. I didn't have that in the script. I didn't get any script. Literally, but I was told that's part of what today is.
Oh yeah, we're here for it. I love it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching the podcast. Hit the like and follow button to stay updated on our latest episode. If you have ideas of topics or guests you'd like us to interview, drop us a comment, and we'll see you next time.